You're listening to the Hometown Losers, the St. Louis Sports Podcast, with Josh, Adam, and OJ.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Hometown Losers Podcast. This is session number 58. I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Adam and OJ. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Glad to be here. How's it going for you guys?
I'm doing well also.
We're here at the end of October. It's Halloween.
One day before Halloween, yeah.
One day before Halloween for us, even though it feels like summer, strangely enough. Like 80-something today. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Living it up one last little bit.
Yep.
It's been very mild so far, although it's starting to get to that St. Louis time of the year because obviously it's windy as shit, and it's just going to continue to be
it's
getting colder and colder.
Sure.
Yeah. So I was actually talking to a coworker in Denver. It was 34 degrees out there today.
Oh wow.
Shit. And I'm like, there are a couple of states over it, a 50-degree difference, but they also did have some rain and stuff like that obviously cooled them down even more. So, but still, it's kind of crazy.
Wow. Well, I'm glad Paul's here because we have fall sports, and that's one of my favorite parts of fall as well.
Yeah, because I was about to say, speaking of cold weather, let's talk a little bit about some hockey and the coolest game on the planet, right? And talk about our beloved St. Louis Blues. So, a quick update: St. Louis Blues, wise, they are 5-5. So literally 500 team. They're at 10 points. They are 5th in the Central. They are 5 points behind Winnipeg. They are 10th in the West, also 5 points behind Winnipeg. They are 18th in the NHL, also 5 points behind Winnipeg because Winnipeg is the number one team in the NHL. And as it sits right now, obviously very early on, 10 games out of the gate. They're 1 point out of the last wild card spots. And we are chasing Calgary and Seattle, who both have 11 points right now. So we're just going to dive into it and kind of go from there. Adam, what's your thoughts so far on the season?
Well, obviously, just speaking of the last, I'll say past week or so, I'll just say it's been rather chilly for us as we were talking about that, especially in Canada. And we've been feeling that, unfortunately, except for the one game versus Toronto. It hasn't been
kind of surprising that we did so well against Toronto.
It was very surprising, absolutely. But other than that, our trip up north into Canada has been a chilly reception for sure because it has been a rough go the past few games for sure. Especially that latest game yesterday, which we were playing the Senators, which was extremely hard to watch. Where we were, just completely blown out of the water, 8-1. It was a complete blowout. And, it was, I think, one of the worst defeats that we had in almost 4 years. So, we struggled significantly from the start. We conceded 3 goals in the first period, another 3 in the second, and it was just insurmountable at that point. However, even though I think he has shown a promise as a goaltender this season, Hofer definitely had a tough outing for sure. Let's just face it, they were dominated by their offensive stars for sure. And, you've got Brady, Tkachuk, and all them guys. So, it's tough. And especially whenever our Blues defense is under constant pressure, we just don't have the consistency here to be able to.
We're not the team that we were back in the 2019 and all those years. Yeah.
And I think that loss really highlights the reoccurring issues with the Blues, especially in the defense, the consistency. And that's one of the things that we were talking about before was the consistency with the Blues and the early game struggles for sure. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, it's still very early on. I'm not giving up hope by any means. I've been optimistic since the beginning. I will continue to remain optimistic, but the inconsistencies certainly raise a couple of red flags for me for sure. And the team's inability to really secure solid starts and capitalize on those, offensive opportunities, and especially what we've seen before on power play for sure. It seems to be a weak point for us, and we've seen this before. But I think the Blues just need to refocus their strategy, just keep working, to strengthen both their defense and, their offensive output, and just, we got to prevent, some of these lopsided results going forward.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. It's just like been incredibly inconsistent, and I want to speak real quick to the Ottawa game. It's really hard when even Jamie Rivers, who's on the damn broadcast, says, the most dangerous lead in hockey is 7 goals, right? Like, just trying to find some humor and positivity at the fact that we were down by a fucking field goal in a hockey game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be flat out. That was one of the worst ass whoopings I've ever seen in an NHL game before. Like, it was bad. And I remember in one of my text groups for softball, they're like, is there a mercy rule, in hockey? And the next person after he goes, yes, it's called turning the channel off. Yeah, because that's all it is.
You have to.
You have to go out there for 60 minutes and play a game, and we scored that one goal, and it's just like, oh, cool. Like, we got a goal. And then they came back and scored another one. You're like, all right, this is just ridiculous. At this point, put your tail between your legs. Just go out there and I don't care. Put all 5 people in front of the goalie to just not let another goal. Just concede. We're not going to score. Just, let's move on from here. You know what I mean? Obviously, it would have been a great time to be in Ottawa if you're an Ottawa fan. That was the one game you want to circle to be able to go to see 8 goals in a single game, but also not see a hat trick. That's crazy enough, too. I mean, you have 3 different people with 2 goals. That's crazy.
That is true. That is true.
With no hat trick. But it definitely was just a really difficult game to watch, and I really hope it doesn't affect them for the next game. OJ, what's your thoughts so far in the season? And also, I want to get your opinion on how do they bounce back from the Ottawa ass kicking they just received.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to just look at the last 2 games, then it looks pretty bad for sure. But, I mean, really, they played well enough to get the win in Winnipeg, or when they played Winnipeg.
Yeah. Which is a great team. Obviously, the number 1 team in the NHL right now. So kind of surprising but they are. They're a great team this year. And
they probably ought to walk. They played well enough to win it, but not enough things went their way to win it. They only lost by 1. Then they smoked Toronto after Thomas was out.
Yep.
Then they got crushed in the last 2. So I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of good developments from the new players they got, especially really liking the way the Josephs are playing. Broberg, of course. Holloway's been getting goals. It's just I don't know, that Ottawa game, I only caught the first part of it. And to me, Hofer let in some bad ones. The second goal they got, there's a defender draped all over the guy, and he just kind of flings it at the net and it goes in. I mean, I'm not saying the Blues played well, but basically everything Ottawa put on net went in. So, that's gonna be a bad night. So I don't know what happened, because Hofer had been pretty good previously. So maybe he just had an off night. He's still a young player, so maybe he just needs to get him a little more consistent still.
I agree with that. In fact, that I think Hofer has stepped up impressively, and really has I think he is establishing himself as a potential starter for sure. That was a rough outing, but I definitely see that he has been stepping up, though. No doubt about it.
Yeah, you definitely aren't ready to lean on him yet, though, either. As your 1A. He's not 1A yet, but I think he just needs to get to where he is more consistent in the way he plays. Clearly he lacked focus, I assume, is the issue. I doubt it's a physical issue. Usually, if you could do it physically.
But it's not all on him either, I have to say.
No. But
I've seen a lot of defensive. And the fact is, we weren't scoring either. It's it was as a collective whole. It was an all team. I mean, it was a team collapse in that game, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, because also a lot of times, good chances they get, they weren't burying them. Either the goalie the opponent's goalie made a great save, or we're missing wide open nets and shit like that. It's like, come on now, can't be doing that.
But it is just
to that point, to that point, like things are gonna happen like this where you're just gonna have like bad reactions. Like you react and the puck moves a different way, or you just don't see the puck correctly, and everything just seems to go the wrong way for you as a goaltender, but also for the team. And that's really difficult because if your offense isn't scoring to like keep you in the game and you just continue to feel, it's the psychological effect that all of a sudden starts snowballing. And I think that's what really happened to Hofer, was just like, damn, like, let in a few easy goals and then you kind of get that in the back of your head. And being a goaltender is hard. You know what I mean? Psychologically, that's why they're all weird. I know several goaltenders that are incredibly weird people because they have to be. It's like a kicker in football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have to be kind of like weird, superstitious people because that's what works for them. But that's the growing pains from it. I remember an interview with Martin Brodeur that he talked about that early in his career. He got his ass whooped in like 3 games in a row. And he just was like, kind of had a slump or whatever. And one of like the veteran goaltenders that was around the league at the time called him and could see his body language because he had watched highlights on ESPN and called him and goes, dude, you're much better than this. Like, you need to get out of your own fucking head. Like, take a break, whatever you got to do. So he literally told the GM of the Devils, hey, I need like 2 games off to kind of reset my mind for a second here. And there was a big uproar because, Brodeur, even though when he was younger, he was still the guy. You know what I mean? Like, everyone knew that the greatness that Brodeur could have been. Obviously, they just didn't know what he would eventually be. But it was a big big stink. He then comes back and was like reset his mind and had a better perspective of letting things go. So maybe Hofer can do that. You would hope that he's able to do that. We've seen it way too often in professional sports where players cannot let that stuff go. And they don't have like immediate success and they just fail. But Hofer's had some success early on in his career. So, again, I think that he'll bounce back, but you know what I mean? It's just one of those things, right?
Well, and he's got Binnington to lean on too. Binnington can take up the slack for games and Hofer can like talk to him about shit.
Yeah, exactly right. Because, again, Binnington has been there, done that at this point of his career. Even though he's not been in the league necessarily like a super long time, obviously is more of a veteran. At this point, he's been in the league 5 years, right? And he's won a cup. So like he knows a lot about, trying to dishevel that pressure, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. He's dealt with it a lot himself already.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, being the first rookie goaltender to win 16 games in the postseason, that's crazy. You know what I mean? That's just absolutely nuts.
Well, and then you look at like his antics in the years following that, where he probably wasn't handling pressure the best he could.
Yep. Yeah, because at that point he felt like he couldn't let his game speak for itself. You know what I mean? So now he's got to do some other stuff to kind of, speak out for it rather than just being like, am I nervous? Do I look nervous? He needs to get back to that Jordan Binnington. If he can get back to that ice cold in your veins, I don't give a shit one way or the other what happens. I'm just going to go out there and do my job. The kid's going to be a monster then because he's got the effort. He's got the skill. He's got the ability to be able to do it. But it's the mindset, I think, for Binnington. But also, too, the defense has got to help him out because that's also some things that can get you off your game is when it's frustrating. I take a look at it in softball, for example, when like I'm sitting there and like, all right, we're facing a good team. I know that we have the ability. I know I can make catches and stuff like that. But when the infield is dropping like, basic ass ground balls or like they're throwing to first base and it's going like past them like consistently, it's like, well, what the fuck, man? Then it gets into my head. And so then I will make an error. You know what I mean? Because it's like you feel like you have to do everything yourself. So again, I think it kind of can be a snowballing effect, depending.
Well, yeah, but I'd argue that Binnington probably should have been a Vezina finalist last year. He's been pretty good this 100%. Year. He basically put all that stuff away, all the bullshit away, and just plays goalie now. It's like,
yeah, for sure.
That was the best thing he could have done for his career because all of a sudden he does look like old Jordan Binnington.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's all part of the learning curve, right? But for me, this season has been marred by inconsistencies, which is the next topic I want to bring up too. And I'll even start it off. I mean, we've been very inconsistent, not only finding our scoring touch, but dude, our power play has not looked great. When we have the man advantage, we just seemed to be very indecisive on moving the puck and win the shoot, and it just feels like we don't have confidence right now with it, if that makes sense, right?
So the power play's been bad. And it's like, you're up a man, you're doing something wrong if you can't generate scoring chances up a man.
Yeah, bring it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's something wrong with the whole way they're approaching it, in my opinion. If that's what's happening, like I don't know, I don't get it.
I can't. And I think it was the second game of the season. And forgive me, I don't remember what game it was, but I know it was a game that we gave a shorthanded goal up to. But we had.
Oh, I remember watching that game. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I was over at Firebirds watching the game or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was Wild. It was against Wild. It was Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm pretty sure it was Minnesota Wild. Yeah,
right.
That's right. And we had 3 power play goals. We had 1 shot and 3 power play goals. You know how many shots they had shorthanded? They had 4. They had 4 fucking shorthanded shots, and we had 1 on a power play. How does that happen? That's unacceptable.
At some point, I think you need to shake the personnel up because, the coaches can only say so much. Oh, you need to do this. You need to do this. If the players are going to get out there and just stand around and look lost, you need to get somebody that's got a little more of a decisive mindset in there. Then.
Yeah, and there was another example against the Canes too, where we were 0-4 with the man advantage as well, and we only had a single shot on goal during those 4 opportunities. I mean, it was embarrassing. I remember watching that game, and it was like this seems to plague us again for another season. We had this problem last year.
Yep.
If you recall.
And you know what? I think it's the top unit that's doing the worst also, the one with all the high skilled players. Yeah. They're the ones like, oh, why can't we even get into the zone with possession? Like, I don't know.
But that's the problem. They struggle to get into the offensive zone cleanly.
Yeah.
And maintain pressure once it's set up. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And that always leads to low quality chances, that fail that, actually challenge the goaltender at that point.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. When you're not a team that doesn't have a lot of speed to be able to get into the zone and then just quick strike, so then it doesn't matter about how cleanly you enter, you have to be able to hold zone possession with the man advantage, right? That's the biggest thing. That's why you wear them down and put pressure on them. But when you look like you can't enter the zone, and then even when you do, you look indecisive, I feel like everyone's waiting for everybody else to make the play, even if you have the damn puck. Dude, 100%. Somebody needs to step up and be like, you know what? Just give me the fucking puck and I'll go do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what needs to happen.
I guess at this point, they're going to have to just experiment with some different player combinations or something. Yeah,
100%.
That's what I do. They need to be more dynamic and more threatening.
Try throwing Torpchenko up there or something. He's not going to. That way, you can at least dump the puck in, and he'll go get it. And he'll come away
exactly.
With it
too, he'll put the effort in. Yeah, he'll put the effort in.
That's what I would try first. Is like, all right, put him on the top unit. Because I mean, at this point, I think you got to start thinking outside the box. Put him on the top unit and have a break in play where you just dump the puck over with him on the wing and let him go get it and just bang the defender enough. Eventually the guy's going to get tired and worn out and tired of going and digging the puck out at least.
And then you can also, too, try to make it to where, because if you get behind the net, obviously it's a very awkward spot for the goaltender because they're looking over the shoulder the entire time, but also that at least one defender on the main advantage is going to be coming back and trying to play that. So if you can grab that guy and potentially get another person to cheat outside the triangle that they should be forming at that point in time, now it could potentially be a 4-on-2 advantage, or it could be a 3-on-2 advantage. Regardless, now there's more space on the ice.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that is a very good strategy they could potentially do and play it from the corner. You know what I mean? Yeah. Push it from corner to corner as much as you want. Get some lateral movement from the goaltender. Wear him down out that way too. Again, keep getting their heads a little bit. And possession. The more they skate back and forth chasing the puck, the more they are going to get worn the fuck out.
Yes, if nothing else, make them skate around a lot. That's the bare minimum you should do every time.
Because not even it's even beyond, just trying to get scoring opportunities during the power play. Power plays can shift the momentum in several different ways. Not only just, again, scoring goals, and getting in the defensive head crap. Now we're playing on our heels. But if you get all the momentum going forward and now you're tired, your top killers and stuff like that, the next shift that they come out there, they're going to be tired still. You know, there might be one guy that might be fresh on line 2 or line 3, whatever they're playing on, but some of those guys are going to be tired because they're getting more ice time, right? So then you take it to them at that point in time. You have to use that as a springboard for your game to be able to push forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and a lot of those times, those penalty killers are your best two-way players, forwards or defensemen.
Exactly right.
So
and
then
those
when
are the
you're
hustle
5-on-5,
guys.
yeah. So when you're 5-on-5, those guys are tired. It makes it easier for you to score there. Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, like, and again, it's easy for us, you know, as you know, armchair quarterbacks here to be able to say this stuff, but honestly, to your point, you're going to have to start thinking outside the box. Like, you're not going to go anywhere with the personnel that we have currently, right? It's not like you're going to be, you know, making massive changes to this roster. You wouldn't expect it to be. So you're going to have to figure out how to make this work.
Yeah, so. I meant like the people that are on the power play currally. Even though
I know what you meant. That's what I meant.
Be a good. Yeah, I just mean even though it looks like it should be effective on paper, it hasn't been. Now it hasn't been a month yet. You know, so maybe they want to give it a little more time to gel. But like, if it never works, I guarantee you just are gonna have to switch somebody out and swap players around until something starts working.
Something's got to start clicking at that point.
I watched the power play be abysmal for too long last season to want to do that shit again.
No doubt, man. We were like last when it came to that in the rankings. When it came to that, that was like so bad.
Historically bad. It was like 8%, something like
garbage.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? How do you have an 8% power play? That would be like the best penalty kill unit of all time playing against the Blues every game. Like, crazy.
Yeah, man. It is what it is. But again, hopefully they'll be able to figure it out and kind of move there. Adam, what's your thoughts here? And like, why do you think the team's been so inconsistent? Obviously, we talked about the power play. Is there anything else that you want to kind of add to that?
I mentioned that earlier in my assessment, basically, just to kind of reiterate. I was talking about not only that, but our defensively, we haven't been consistent at all. And offensively as well. It's just we've overall as a team have not shown consistency across the board, especially in the past couple of games for sure. While I feel like there's some optimism, I feel like we've kind of turned the page a little bit from last season. I think that we have made some improvements overall, but I really think that it's too early to really tell. I mean, we're only 10 games into this season or so.
It's very early still.
It's so early on. Yeah. While it is slightly concerning to see the past couple of games for sure, I think it's going to be interesting in the next month or so how we play in general, because yes, I expect it's going to be we're going to be playing at 500 average hockey right now. I don't expect the Blues to be at the top of the Central Division. I never expected that going into this season. I said, I think, on our last session, I think we're vying for most likely a wild card spot, most likely. And I think that that's still absolutely obtainable. We were saying, they're only one game out from a wild card spot currently, correct?
Yeah.
1 point. Yeah. So
1 point. That's what I meant to say. Sorry, 1 point. I meant to say.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
1 point out from a wild card spot. I honestly think that we'll be hovering in the mid section of Central Division for sure. I think that we'll be streaky like we have been seeing from time to time. We'll probably go off and win a few games, and then we'll go back to the same thing again. I don't see that changing anytime soon because there hasn't been enough dynamics within the team, the coaching, etc., that have really changed how we've been playing as a whole. But I think that we are playing overall better than we were. There was really a team dynamic we were missing last year, and I felt like the level of effort was minimal. So as long as and I think maybe with a little bit of the coaching differences as well, hopefully we can rise above that a bit and stay on top of that and make sure that we are staying aware of some of those inconsistencies and trying to constantly fix that, I think we can hover in the around 500 or a little better. And at most, we will be, more than likely it is vying for that wild card spot at that point in time. That's where I think we're going to see ourselves long term in reality, because I don't think that we're going to change enough of the dynamics that we're going to just go off and, they're going to just start winning like crazy again. I just don't see that. But hey, prove me wrong. 2019.
Yeah, exactly right. And it definitely could be that point where, again, maybe this is the start of something we don't see. You know what I mean? But
right.
The reason why I think that, and it's early in the season, but it's also like you're more than 10% into the season at this point in time, right? So you kind of have enough sample size to see what the team is.
Sure.
But again, a lot of growth that can definitely happen from it. But the reason why, to me, it's more alarming than say it was last year is because like we saw exactly this last year, and it just seems to be like, it's just happening again. You know what I mean? Like it's literally just a repeat of last season, not really going anywhere, like spinning in circles and stuff like that. That's kind of what it feels like, right? Not that much massive improvement. To your point, it does seem like there is a little bit more of a team camaraderie, but for me, it's also going to be about results too, because obviously that's what matters at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So
it's a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, that's the Blue Seasons, how it was last year. Well, and I felt like we had more lows than we had highs. Whereas I'm hoping that we can sort of level out a little bit more, like I said, and aim to rise above a 500 record and contend more effectively throughout the season. That's what I'm, we got to find that footing first. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a lot of new players. A lot of those players are young players. They just lost Robert Thomas.
Yeah, for what?
So, 6 weeks,
I think
6 weeks.
Yeah. So,
which is a brutal loss, honestly.
Oh, absolutely was 100%.
Yeah, that's like other than Binnington, that's the one guy we couldn't afford to lose.
Absolutely.
Right.
And maybe Broberg, because I feel like Broberg's kind of transformed the look of our defenseman.
That's true. He has.
A lot.
He definitely has.
Those are our three guys right now that we don't want to lose. We lost Robert Thomas. So now we're really thin at center. And maybe just the Leafs didn't figure out how to exploit it. But now the Montreal and Ottawa subsequently have. But, I don't know.
I have to say, going back to that about Broberg and also Holloway, too, they had definitely provided us some fresh energy. But we need more that cohesive team effort, though. I think we've been vulnerable otherwise.
Well,
but
that's
it is nice to see that, in the newcomers, though.
Yeah, that's part of why you might see some inconsistency, though, is because you got a bunch of new young players on the team. So we've seen them be pretty good. Mm-hmm. Now we've seen them be pretty bad a couple of games.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
See how they bounce back. And you never know. Maybe by January 15th or so, maybe they're gelling a lot more and all of a sudden they go on a run, So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, speaking of going on a run, we're going to need that for the next team on our segment. Let's talk a little bit about MIZZOU and the Missouri Tigers. So just a quick update. They are 6-2 now, obviously, after getting shut out and dropped at Alabama last week, which did not look good. Brady Cook went down. He is questionable to start the next game at home against Oklahoma. He most likely, from what they're saying, will not start. We'll have to see how that goes because obviously he got injured at the end of the excuse me, guys, for the game before the Alabama game, which I can't even remember who the hell we played at that point in time. Obviously we won that game. Auburn, duh. But the biggest thing now is Missouri is still in the top 25, amazingly. We are 25th. We are 2-2 in the SEC. The games remaining we have are Oklahoma, at home, and just going through some of the statistics here, but the records and percentage of expected win for us. So again, 4 games left. We have the next week here is Oklahoma. Oklahoma's 4-4 this year, 1-4 in the SEC. We have a 63.1% winning probability on this one. Then we are at South Carolina, who is 4-3, 2-3 in the SEC. We only have a 40.6% win probability. We are not favored in that game, even though South Carolina is not ranked. And the reason for that is definitely the pass rush. South Carolina has a nasty pass rush, and our offensive line has struggled this year in that sense. Then we are at Mississippi State, which Mississippi State is 1-7, 0-5 in the SEC. We have a 72.5% win probability there. And then we finish up the season at home against Arkansas for the border conflict there. At 5-3 is Arkansas. They are 3-2 in the SEC and 56.5% winning probability for us here. So again, it's the only question that we can ask at this point. And I'll start with you, OJ. Does Mizzou still even have a chance at the playoffs at this point?
No, I said a long time ago. After the loss to A&M, they had to win out, and certainly getting manhandled by Alabama. Like, there's no chance. I mean, Oklahoma sucks this year. The rest of your roster, or the rest of your schedule, excuse me, that's what's terrible about it.
Yeah,
is that a lot of those teams are playing really good football, but they haven't been winning. Like South Carolina, they're a pretty good football team. They don't have a lot of wins because they've had a really tough schedule, but they've played some really good teams close. So they're not going to be easy win. But the thing is, you're not going to get credit for beating any of these teams after this. Unless you go – maybe if you run through the rest of the schedule and just blow all of them out of the water, maybe there's a
Which
chance.
is very improbable, but, maybe.
Yeah. With the way the offense has been, it's not going to happen. I'm just saying, if somehow that happened and you get 20-point wins over all the rest of these guys.
Well, yeah, like you did with UMass, for example. If you could have those kind of games against the rest of everybody, then absolutely.
Maybe the national people might give you some more credit. But because when they're picking the playoff field, they're going to be like, well, how does Mizzou stack up against other playoff teams?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only two other playoff teams they've played, they got absolutely destroyed by. So you can't expect that there's going to be any real competition if you put them in the playoffs anyway. So playoffs are done as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that right now they have a ridiculously low percentage chance of winning. And the reason winning of getting to the playoffs, I think right now we sit at a 4% probability of being able to win or
shouldn't even be that high. It's a 0%.
And the reason why hold on. The reason why it's that high is because unbelievably at 2-2 in the SEC, we still have a 2% chance of getting to the SEC championship game. How? I have no idea.
That would take some insanity for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I guess theoretically,
pure chaos.
Yeah, no one's gonna put us in the top 12 of their own accord. That's for sure.
Yeah. Because I mean, the only positive that we have, if we were out of the top 25, it would be over right now. There's no possible way. But that's the only thing that you can hope for is that these next 4 weeks dominate and everybody just falls apart. And then it's pure chaos. You know what I mean? That's the only possible way that it could potentially happen.
Yeah, I could also get struck by lightning and win the Powerball, between now and then. Right. So
right, yeah.
They're going to need this offensive line to really gel in a way that it hasn't all of a sudden in a big way. Because they
can't even run the ball anymore. That's been a problem. It's like you ran the ball so well last year. It's pretty much the same offensive line.
I think that's what the topic should be. Is more like the fact is, can we even see that as a possibility? And the fact is, the answer is no.
Well, they haven't tried to run the ball enough, in my opinion. That's the other problem. They're going too pass happy because the zone run should be their bread and butter. That's what it's been every year under Drinkwitz. But this year, they're not running to set up the pass or anything like that. I will say the offensive line is taking a step back because there were games against Boston College and Vanderbilt earlier in the season where they needed a yard on a play and they got stuffed. And that never happened last season.
And didn't get the offensive push. And you're facing what, in all due respect to these teams, you're facing inferior competition. You know what I mean?
This unit, this offensive line, was pushing around Georgia's defensive line last season. It's the same guys on center and the right side are the same guys. They have two highly regarded transfers, that came in on the left side. It's just not working the way it was last season.
Yeah,
so
and
it's a shame.
Yeah, and it is, because we came into this season with so much hope. You know what I mean? Like we really had. We really thought that we could potentially get into not only the playoffs, but you might be able to look at yourself and go, okay, if we can win one of these games, against an Alabama type competition, we're in the SEC championship game. That's what we felt like coming into the season. You know what I mean? So to completely miss the mark.
Last year's Mizzou team destroys this year's Alabama team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what's a shame about it, is they didn't even. I don't know. Because this year's Alabama team isn't that good. But don't forget, Missouri was also missing their starting running back for the last couple of games as well. And in the zone running game, the running back is a lot bigger of a deal because it's up to them.
They have to be able to make the reads in the cuts. Yes.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that probably hurts the run game a lot more. But still, if you have a good enough O-line, like Marcus Carroll ain't no slouch. You know what I mean? Like, although they 100%. Didn't use him that much, they're using that Roberts guy. But, like, those guys have the ability to get you something if the line's giving them something to work with, Yeah. So, yeah, I guess it's just an illustration of why you shouldn't bet on college sports. College kids are unpredictable and inconsistent.
Yep, and that's one of the reasons why we love it and also hate it at the same time.
Exactly.
Fucking sure. Yeah. Well, with it, I will say this before we move on to our next segment here. With another loss, their chances of making the playoffs drops to less than 1%, which is essentially the polite way of saying zero. It obviously is pretty much zero now, we know, but it is it's just the mathematical probabilities at that point too. So.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just hoping that they can figure out a way to pull out these last wins, go 10-2, and that way you don't get hurt in the recruiting and stuff going forward. If they collapse and go 6-6 or something, they're probably going to get a lot of decommits and shit like that. That would be the
100%
worst case scenario.
That would be, because then again, it's just putting back everything too. And actually, that will that's almost a perfect transition here. Into the next segment. So let's get to the mailbag here, because I do have 2 questions here for us that was presented to me, and then we'll play a real quick game too on that one. But we'll get to the first question here and kind of see where we're at with time, if we want to get to the second one or not, because actually I don't know if I want to talk about the second one since it's a Blues question right now. But since you just kind of perfectly set us up for this, OJ, the question is, was this Mizzou's best chance of making the playoffs this decade between 2020 and 2030? OJ, what's your opinion on that?
I mean, really depends what happens the rest of the season, because
exactly
if they can keep the momentum going with the recruiting and stuff, I could definitely see them having good chances in the future. And the reason is a lot of people, want to point out Drinkowicz's faults. But to me, he's shown to be more adaptable than a lot of other head coaches. Like, just having it within him to give up the play calling and hire a coordinator to do it, that's big. You don't see a lot of head coaches make those kind of changes.
It's a very tough thing to do.
Too good for that, So having that,
especially if that's what got him there into the position. You know what I mean? That's what's worked for you before. So it's hard to let go of the reins.
So that's what I mean. That kind of humility, I think that's a real strength that a lot of people don't possess, head coaches of football teams included. So my point is, do I think Drinkowicz himself could bounce back from this season and evaluate what he did wrong and figure out a way to do things better? Yes, I do. So as long as the recruiting stays good, I do think they'll be back again in the hunt. So there you go.
And I will start before passing it off to you, Adam, here.
Yeah,
I also agree with the same thing here. I think that as long as we recruit well, I think we'll be there again. It's not – listen, it's hard because you're making the top 12 teams in all of Division I football in the FBS, right? But at the same time, you're in the SEC, so you'll have a leg up on a lot of the other competition that will be there because you play in a tougher conference. So even if you can get like close losses to, say, an Alabama, to a Tennessee at Tennessee, to a Georgia, it still looks better in the eyes of the competition because like CFP is going to look at that CFP community is going to look at that and be like, okay, well, these are like our top contenders, and they barely lost by 3, but they dominated in other games and stuff like that the way they should, or they're winning games and finding ways to be a 1-loss team or a 2-loss team. It really depends on the recruiting. And that's always been Missouri's biggest problem is recruiting. We've had phenomenal years, but then when those star players go away, they go to the NFL level at that point in time or graduate, Mizzou falls apart, and so it's just hoping that is not going to be the case at this point in time. But I don't think it's only 2024. You know what I mean? And so you look at it, next year is 2025. You have 5 more years before you hit the next decade mark at the 2030. I definitely believe that we have the ability to do that. But again, if we have a lot of decommits and all that stuff and we play like crap next year, that sentiment changes completely. Adam, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so for me, I think Mizzou can definitely aim for this level of success again, but it'll definitely take some solid work. I think that they've really built momentum, with obviously with Brady Cook and Luther Burden, et cetera. We need a more aggressive offense, though. We've not been seeing that as of late. So, obviously our OC is going to have to really step it up, I think, because the past couple games we've been seeing, it hasn't been consistent. And obviously with this loss now with Brady Cook, we're going to have to see what that's going to look like long term. I'm hopeful, obviously he's going to return and things are going to get better, but obviously I think this season's success can really help us, though. In general, as long as we finish strong, we can help, that's going to help us with some recruiting. Um, I think that we are a team more on the rise than we were for sure the past couple of seasons. So we've seen that. But obviously, and like you've been talking about the SEC, it's a very brutal conference. We're going up against some very stacked teams. Obviously, we just played Bama, and obviously Georgia. They've all dominated, for years. So recruiting against that type of talent is going to be rough for sure, but we need to make sure that we hold on to our coaches. And we're going to have to, just make every effort to go out there and recruit. But really, to go back to your question, is this our best chance to make the playoffs in this decade? I think that we're in a period right now that this is definitely one of their better chances in the more recent years to make, the playoffs for sure. Especially with the new, format and whatnot. I think that it helps us for sure. But we're going to have to finish strong. I think that's the main point, is coming back to that. We're going to have to finish strong against, Oklahoma and Arkansas for sure, because those are the games that are more concerning to me more than anything. Looking at the next,
South Carolina is concerning.
South
me
Carolina,
too,
yeah, that's true. But we're gonna have to finish strong. We're gonna have to finish strong in general for sure. If we want to keep this level of talent and momentum, keep it in here, and as far as recruiting as well. So,
yeah, and I do think Brady Cook will be back at some point this year. If they knew he was going to be out for the season, they would have already said so, probably.
They would have already announced it. And I gotta tell you, I like Brady Cook. I like his tough mentality. So for people that do not know what happened against Auburn, so obviously he got injured and was gone for a long period of time, and then did come back and spark the offense just enough to be able to win that game. The dude went to the hospital to get an MRI. He literally went to Missouri University's medical center and left the field, left the locker room, everything. Went to go get an MRI and then came back. And when asked about it, he said, "I only have a handful of games left at Faurot Field. I'll be damned if I'm missing any more." And to me, that shows a lot of leadership, a lot of heart, and a guy that wants to be there. That to me speaks also, if I'm a recruit watching, that speaks that this guy really wants to play at Faroe Field. And yes, it doesn't have the amenities of, Happy Valley or Depth Valley or anything like that. But there's something about that field and being at Missouri that makes this guy want to continue to play, even though he's probably injured. You know what I mean? Some of that obviously is just being a football player, but that is, to me, is just awesome. You know what I mean? I think he'll go down as, and obviously statistically, he already has, but I think he'll go down as one of the better quarterbacks that Missouri football has ever seen. So,
yeah. And I honestly, my theory is that he's been hurt since the beginning of the year. I don't know
think so
what's wrong with him
And
exactly, but the fact that when he came back from in the Auburn game, I think they shot him up with some really strong shit, like maybe some Toradol or whatever. You can't just give to people all the time, right? Like he wasn't able to take that again, probably for the Alabama game. But that's what it looked like, is they gave him some really good painkillers, and he felt better than he had all season. And he looked like a dynamic player again all of a sudden, like much better than all year when he was supposedly healthy before, right? So
yeah,
my
I agree with that.
suspicion is he's been injured all season and dealing.
Yeah, because he hasn't seemed to be able to cut and run as quickly as and dynamically as before, as you said.
Correct.
So.
And I think it's whatever it is, I think it's affecting all aspects of his game, because he looked like a pretty good quarterback last year, and this year he took a big step back. So
yeah. And there's some regression that can happen, but this, especially in your senior year, this far back, there's definitely something going on.
Yeah, and the missing link for me was the whole how he came back into Auburn again. It looked better than he had at any point during the season so far. It's like, oh, okay, he's been hurt. Now he's on the good shit.
Yeah. All right, guys. So let's play a real quick game here. So obviously, we've all played Kill Fuck Marry, right? Or whatever the PC way of saying that is.
We aren't PC,
the objective,
so you're good.
Yeah, right. So where the objective is you say 3 people, and you will, either you got to marry one of them, you got to kill one of them, and you got to have sex with one of them, right? So it's like one night stand, you're going to marry, and then you're going to kill one of them, right? We're going to do a sports edition of this called Kill. We're going to play a sports edition of this called Cut Start Franchise. So where you're cutting a player, you're going to start him for one season, and then you're going to let him go, and then you're going to franchise tag one of these players, right? So essentially, that's going to be your reasons for kill, fuck, marry. Adam, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
The 3 people for this cut start franchise: Albert Pujols,
oh God,
Ozzie Smith, and Bob Gibson.
Are you serious? Oh my God.
I know, and I chose like 3 completely different type of Cardinals legends to make this even harder.
Wow.
Pujols, Ozzie Smith, and Bob Gibson.
Jesus Christ. I mean, that's so tough.
Yep.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so franchise, I'm going to have to go with Bob Gibson. I mean, God, as hard as this is, Bob Gibson by far. I mean, he's the reason why they lowered the fucking mound. This guy literally changed the sport.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, he literally redefined pitching for the entire fucking league. I mean, his legacy is one of the most fiercest competitors in a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to franchise the guy. He's oh God, this is so tough.
All right, so you're going to franchise Bob Gibson. So you got to start and you got to cut one. You got to cut either Albert Pujols or Ozzie Smith.
Oh my God. Oh. I probably would start. Oh man. Probably because I'm having Bob Gibson on the mound, I'm going to start Albert Pujols. And the reason why is because I need a strong offense and I need somebody between an amazing dominant hitter and the best pitcher we've ever had. I'm bound to get somewhere far. Absolutely.
It's funny. I knew you would look at this very analytically. I knew that you would do this.
It's the only way I could do
specifically.
that. I mean, as hard as that
Yeah.
is, and I absolutely love Ozzie Smith. I mean, I'm so sorry, Ozzie. I literally just saw you like a month ago, dude. Like I just hung out with the guy for like, 2 minutes, but anyway, literally got to hang out with him for a couple of minutes or whatever. And oh my God, I would have to cut Ozzie Smith. And the only reason is just because of his lighter impact on hitting. That's the only reason. Compared to Pujols, but I think that's my reasoning. As hard as that is, God, that's hard. Yeah.
So we have you're
Jesus
cutting
Christ.
Ozzie Smith. You're going to start Albert Pujols and you're franchising Bob Gibson. It's fair enough though, because this is a very hard decision to make.
That's the most analytical way I can look at it because I'll have an amazing pitcher and I'll have an amazing dominant hitter.
Yep.
That's
All right,
the best I can get. I don't know. It's a tough situation.
OJ, cut, start, franchise. Same thing. Pujols, Ozzie, Gibson.
So I thought about it while Adam was thinking about his. So I'd probably franchise Ozzie Smith because he's going to be on the field every day, and he provides the best defense of all time at the most important defensive position. And then I guess I'd have to have signed for a year Bob Gibson, so because that way I have an ace in my staff, and I'd have to cut Albert Pujols. As ridiculous as that sounds,
man. So the crazy thing is, we all three have different answers. So if I have to look at this, I would franchise Albert Pujols. I would start Bob Gibson, and I would cut Ozzie. So like I'm very similar to you, Adam, but I reversed the roles.
But you flipped Pujols and Gibson as far as franchises start. Yeah.
But it's so hard.
I can see that.
This is a very hard game to play with those three names specifically, especially because they bring completely different things to the game. I mean, obviously one is a pitcher, and then two are going to be your everyday players, but one is known for his offensive abilities.
You can slice it up.
Remember, Pujols has also got a bunch of Golden Gloves too. Now that being said, he's playing first base, and he's probably getting a lot of those from his offensive talents. But he still was a great first baseman. But to your point, OJ, Ozzie Smith is the greatest defensive shortstop at the most important defensive position in baseball history. So
yeah,
it's a tough one.
Any way you slice it,
incredible baseball players. Like
that's the problem is you can slice it any way and look at it from every angle and make that argument in any way. 100%. Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. I mean, it's literally at that point, it's literally just a toss up, and you could argue as far as what it is, and that and obviously based upon it's your intellect, your gut that says, okay, this is what I would do, and that's obviously what we're doing. But it's interesting to hear that each of us were different slightly. There is no right or wrong answer at this point.
So no, of course not. Yeah, it really, because of the fact that you have to cut one of these legends, it's every single one of our answers are wrong.
But there's no choice, right? Yeah, that's the reason why it always makes this very tough, because you have the cut one. Yeah, you're not going to have somebody terrible.
I'm going to start with you for the second one. All right. So, Brett Hall, Al McInnes, or Mike Liut?
Mike Liut, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mike Liut, franchise. Got to get your goalie. Most important position in all of hockey. Mm-hmm. And then, was it McInnes or Hull for a year?
Yep.
I'd go Hull and cut, because he was so good offensively. But, I mean, I'll just go Hull. I'll go Hull and then cut McInnes, which is stupid. But yeah, there you go.
So, I'll go second here, Adam, to give you a little bit more time to think of it and go from there. I'm very similar to you, OJ. I went back and forth in this. So with Liut, I am 100% franchising as well. So you said he's one of the best goaltenders in hockey. So I 100% am doing that, and I believe that I would also. I cannot get rid of. You can't ignore Brett Hall's offensive production. As much as McInnes was an amazing, power play leader, amazing defenseman, it's got to be Brett Hall that I would play for that one season and then try to figure out the offense from there. And I would cut Al McInnes. So I'm in the exact same wavelength as you. Yeah, Adam, your turn.
Just because I want to change things up, I'm going to franchise Brett Hull because
Yeah,
his goal scoring ability during his peak in St. Louis was game changing by far.
yeah.
He was synonymous with his goal scoring excellence by far. Um, you know, and he also had a lot of great chemistry too with the team. Um, but then the question, Mike Liut or Al MacInnis, who do I cut is the question. And I think I'm going to have to cut Al MacInnis.
Yeah.
I know. It's so
Poor
sad.
McInnes. He just unfriended us on Facebook.
I'm really sorry, and I know that this is really tough, but you can't pass up Mike Liut in net. That
I
is
know.
something I'm unwilling to give up.
Exactly.
And I went back and forth between having Liut as my, the start for 1 year and having Brett Hall as my franchise player.
Yeah,
Because Brett Hall means a lot to me personally as a
yeah,
player and, watching him play hockey and stuff like that. But the more I thought about it, it was exactly the same wavelength as OJ said. It's the goaltender. If you have a great
yeah.
goaltender, you
have to
always have
that.
a chance in the game.
You have to
And if you
have
can
it. There's
shut
no
down
way.
Brett Hall or Brett Hall has a bad game, you might lose. So
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
So at that point, it's like, okay, then you have to pick between the two, and I'm going to go with Hull on
Yeah.
that. Sorry, MacInnis.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So I got one more for before we head for our sign off here. I will start with this one, but I'm going to put a caveat on this one. So you are starting a kickball league, all right, or a kickball team. There's a professional kickball league. Or actually, you know what? Screw that. Let's play. You're going to be in professional dodgeball. How about that? That sounds even better, right? So you're going to be going to the ADAA tournament in Vegas. You need one coach that's going to be able to do this. Now, you're going to have one coach for the rest of the team's history, one coach for one season, and then one coach that you will not sign. And the three coaches are Greg Berube, Tony LaRussa, and Dick Vermeil. I will start with this one since you guys, both got to start one. So it'd be a little bit more fair. I definitely think that I would cut Dick Vermeil, even though I like Dick Vermeil a lot. And then I think that I would deal with one season of LaRussa. You know what? No, fuck that. No, I would cut LaRussa. LaRussa, I think, would just like want to control everything, and I just don't want to deal with that. Dick Vermeil for one season, and Craig Berube would be my franchise coach. That's what I think it would be fair. Adam, I don't think you've been second yet. Let's go with you for second here. So, who is going to be your coach for your dodgeball team for the entire franchise length, one season coach, and then who are you not even considering as coach?
I mean, of the three, wow. I mean, considering LaRussa did have a lot of clashes with players, and he didn't necessarily, he has a reputation. I'll just say that. He has a reputation. We all know that. And as much as I enjoyed Tony LaRussa while he was here, I think that I agree with you in that sense that it may not be what's best for the team. Wow. Vermeil or Berube. I love Berube and his style. He's no nonsense. He is so grounded. He's resilient. Oh man. But then you've got Vermeil. I mean, he's legendary. And he can really build morale too and build teams. God damn. I mean, he did it here, he did it to Eagles. God damn. Oh, this is tough. I'm gonna have to go with probably just from a gut. I'm gonna go with Berube.
As your franchise coach, so
Yeah.
like you would franchise
Yeah.
tag
Yeah.
tag him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So same as me. I got you. That totally makes
I
sense.
would have to, I think, just overall, probably for similar reasons. I mean, part of me wants to go with Vermeil because he is he has a really good approach that goes beyond his the strategy. And he's really all about building bonds and motivating the players and pushing them beyond the limits.
Yep.
We saw that in St. Louis. It was incredible. You know, he believed in Kurt
Saw it
Warner.
in Philly too.
He saw it in the Eagles. Absolutely. He was, and that's part of me like wants to lean that way. But I just personally like Berube and his style personally as well. I don't know. Let me think about. God, I want to think about that for. But I'm so
Can't think
torn.
about it. You got to make a decision. I'm going to give you an extra 30
You know what?
seconds to
I'll
think
go
about
with
it.
just to switch it up. I'll go with Vermeil just because I think based upon his strategy and how he builds morale, I think I'll go with that just for the hell of it. Yep, I'm gonna go Vermeil.
Fair enough.
Go ahead.
All right.
Go Vermeil.
OJ, what are your three here? So which coach is going to be your franchise coach? Which one is for one season, and which one are you not even signing?
So the franchise coach is actually pretty easy for me because I think there's one that stands above the rest, and that is Tony Russo. The reason is look at how many. So Tony Russo won in multiple World Series at multiple organizations, whereas Craig Berube has not done so yet. Dick Vermeil, did he win other than with the Rams? I forget. Did he win in Philly or something?
I think he won in Philly. I will double check that real quick. But I'm fairly certain that Vermeil won in Philly as well.
Won only with the Rams. I'm pretty
sure.
So
he did not. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I think he did take the Eagles to the Super Bowl, but they lost.
And they lost. Sure. Okay.
Yes, in 1980. Yep.
No.
They lost. Right?
Oh, hold on. Yeah, he is just one of four coaches to lead two different teams. Yes,
correct.
To the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he went to the Super Bowl with the Eagles, but they lost to the Raiders.
Okay. So anyway, the point is, so just on those credentials alone, La Russa would seem to be better. But on top of that, these are all leaders of men, right? Like, La Russa butted heads with certain guys, but it was a team first kind of thing, right? Like Ozzie Smith and him butted heads. Why? Because he was trying to get Ozzie Smith to take a step back from playing time because Ozzie Smith was getting old. It was best for Ozzie Smith and the St. Louis Cardinals for him to take less of a role, but Ozzie didn't like that.
That's fair enough.
I don't know what happened between him and Scott Rowland, but it's not like La Russa was some domineering, like dictator, rule with an iron fist kind of guy either. He had his leaders on his team as well, like his team captains, essentially the players on the team that would help him, as far as maintaining the standards of the team and all of that. And beyond that, I know for a fact that he put in him and Dave Duncan were very analytically inclined as well. Like they were kind of analytical before analytics was a big thing in baseball. So from that perspective, given that none of these three guys coached dodgeball before,
dodgeball.
I feel that Tony La Russa would be the most likely of the three to analyze the game and figure out what edges there are and take full advantage of those edges between the three of them. So for me, Tony La Russa, franchise coach, and after that, it's a lot harder because I really do like both of those guys. And I think I'll go Dick Vermeil, and I'd have to cut Berube. And it's close,
all right.
But I do question to an extent Berube's tactical acumen in hockey because remember the power play was so bad last year, and it never got better until Bannister took over. So I do wonder if there's some deficiencies there. There you go.
Okay, fair enough. But again, I think this is a very fun game to play just because obviously it's a different perspective of like a normal drinking game, but also it can be really hard with sports legends and stuff. So
it is tough. That's what, I'm not saying that Berube is a bad coach. I just think that the other guys are good.
I mean, for God's sake, I had to cut Ozzie Smith. I mean,
I know.
That's the thing is, I also like that besides the one for the Blues, we all really kind of had completely different, like we didn't agree for the Cardinals and we didn't agree on the coaches. Like all three of us had different like different people all the way around. So I like that. That's pretty cool.
And honestly, like Albert Pujols might be overall the best player, but it's just I guess for me, it was more like his position made him less important to snag. You know.
That. Yeah,
but like,
because because you look at the insight, it's what's important to you if you were the GM, right? So like I might favor might be different than you. You know what I mean? Which is cool.
Yeah.
So
it's literally comes down to a preference at that point. You know, it's like, what is your style or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's literally like, really, what is your favorite food? Everybody's got their own favorite food or whatever, you know.
And for me, it was like really close between Albert Pujols and Ozzie Smith for the franchise, right? And then I was always going to take Bob Gibson for the year, right? But then I could only keep one guy for the franchise. Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah, 100%.
But yeah, so that was interesting.
All right, gents. Well, let's go ahead and head to our sign off. Adam, would you like to tell the good listeners how they can interact with the show and ask questions?
Certainly, I would love to hear from our listeners. As always, we enjoyed those questions from the mailbag. Of course, just keep them coming to us. Check us out at facebook.com/the Hometown Losers. That's spelled LOUSERS, or check us out on x.com/hometown losers.
All right. Appreciate that. And again, definitely keep those mailbag questions coming. We definitely like, doing some critical thinking with some of this stuff. So definitely appreciate that. OJ, would you like to tell the good listeners on what you got for the game of the week?
Yeah. The only game in town. You got the Maple Leafs coming to St. Louis on Saturday at 6 p.m. And
there you go.
I also just want to draw folks' attention to the fact that college basketball is starting on Monday for the St. Louis region as well. And the Billikens might actually have a pretty good team this year. So, they got a new coach that brought a bunch of good guys over from Indiana State. And they're opening their season on Monday at 2 p.m. So no one's going to be able to watch it, but they're at Santa Clara, whatever that is. And then Mizzou tries to get back on track that night against Memphis, at Memphis. So those are some things to pay attention to as well.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for that, OJ. And of course, before we sign off, we, of course, love to send this over to Josh for this week's
Stat Blast.
Over you, Josh. We'd like to hear the latest crazy numbers or facts and finds that you have found out, because I love this segment, of course, of our podcast.
For sure, guys. So this time I took it from a sport that we never talk about, and we're going to talk a little bit about golf. This is just an interesting stat that I saw, and I'm like, dude, it can't be real. And I had to actually double check. I literally did the math for this. So from the years 1997 to 2009, Tiger Woods had the best aggregate score to par in major championships. So obviously, being under or over par, he had the best aggregate score in that 12-year stretch. I'm going to put this in perspective. We know Tiger Woods has been amazing and he's very dominant, but this is like the numbers to it. The top 3 aggregate scores of this period, this 12-year period. Number 3 is Ernie Els with a score of 118 over. Okay, and this is a major championship, so the hardest on the tour. So Ernie Els with 118 over par. Number 2 is Phil Mickelson with 99 over par. Number 1 is, what I said before, is Tiger Woods with a staggering 134 under par. In fact, Mickelson is the only person to be within 250 strokes of Tiger Woods in major championships.
Wow.
Fucking nuts. That just shows you the dominance. Yeah. And again, the numbers. I mean, because obviously, he's won all these championships, but he was blowing people out earlier on in his younger career. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's crazy to see all that stacked up.
So with that, I wonder what his record, I guess, would be of like how many under par then I wonder what his
total, not including majors.
Yeah.
I can total Tiger Woods aggregate, or not Wilds aggregate.
Tiger Woods.
Because I thought of the same thing too.
Because I mean, it's got to
But
be ridiculous.
I'm not terribly too certain if somebody's even done this. I could do that then, I guess, but score. Let's see. Yeah, so I am not seeing that anybody's got like a total aggregate score.
Uh-huh.
Like his wins, I think he's got 110 professional wins.
Right.
Which this is also another like a crazy stat blast. He like he had the number one ranking in the PGA Tour for 683 consecutive weeks. 683 consecutive weeks.
Wow.
Jeez.
That's over 10 years being the number one. It's like, are you kidding me?
That's crazy.
Like, yeah, it's nuts.
I'm seeing here in 2000, it says in the 2000 Open Championship at St. Andrews, he finished 19 under par at that achieving one of the lowest scores relative to par in Open history. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He was 19 under par.
I can't imagine.
Like I can't even finish 19 over par, let alone 19 under par. Jesus Christ. Yeah, and the thing about
his final score of
269
set him apart by an 8-stroke margin.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That's like, insane. Think of the consistency you have to have because you're playing 18 holes 4 days in a row. You know, so I really do believe before his injuries, we really lost a true legend in the sport. Like, who knows how many majors and professional wins he would have before his major.
And that's another thing. Yeah. I'm looking at the major records. The 97 Masters, for example. He set a record with 18 under par, score of 270.
Yeah.
Good Lord. He had a 12-stroke victory margin. A 12-stroke victory margin. God damn.
Like average.
And look at this. Look at this. U.S. Open. Oh, my God. He held the record for the largest margin of victory in the U.S. Open. He won by 15 strokes in 2000 with a score of 272 at Pebble Beach. It remains one of the most significant margins in major championship history. He won by 15 strokes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Like, again, he's just the most consistent, most dominating guy of all time.
That is crazy. Like, what the actual hell? That's like super... That human? He's like on a whole, superhuman. That's like oh my God. You can't even describe that.
It's funny. So I saw a video of him on Facebook of like when he was he was teaching some younger kids like at golf and stuff like that. And it was like something, but this is early on in his career. And he's like, listen, I can only control what I do. I can only control like the ability to come up here and be consistent. And if that comes off intimidating or aggressive, then it sucks to suck. God, the dude was just like, he's so good at the psychology around it too. You know what I mean? That's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you have to be at, right? I mean, that's
especially with, You're
your own main enemy in golf.
Yeah.
That and boredom. But anyways.
That's for the people watching it, not the people playing
it. True.
Yeah, watching golf is
yeah.
That's the reason why people get drunk while they're watching golf.
Exactly. I fall asleep in the chair. I got a cousin that's really big into golf. And he puts it on at the family gatherings. And I just get there, get all comfortable, and I'm out.
Like the white noise that allows you to drift off, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, as always, it was awesome talking to you this week. And hopefully we have some good sports topics coming up the next time we get here. Again, please, to the listeners and the fans of the show, please reach out to us, ask any questions, or if you want to see any specific comments, or I'm going to put it out there. If you want to see us do another Kill Start franchise, please get those 3 to us because I would love to play that again. That's always fun. It could definitely keep us honest and unbalanced. I absolutely love that. But until next time, we will see you next time on the Hometown Losers podcast. Have a great night, everybody.
Hey, this is Josh. Thanks for checking out and tuning in to the Hometown Losers podcast. Check us out next week as we continue our silliness and talk a little bit about the St. Louis sports scene. Catch you next week.